Hey, um, I'm going to be halfway through class. I'm gonna have to transfer over to my grandma's, so I'll be like still able to like listen in, but I'm gonna have to turn my camera off. I take care of her and I don't have the ability to like do stuff when, but I'll still be on.
That sounds good. Do what you need to do.
Thank you.
Brandy, what you eating? Is that Dippin' Dots?
Ice cream.
Oh, that was kind of close. Sounds good. Oh, 500 error on Fly. I hope Fly was having some maintenance issues, outages over the weekend, and they've kind of seemed like they've been plagued with it on or off. So if you see some wonky stuff with Fly, I think that's kind of to be expected. We will power through it though. All right. While we're waiting on folks to show up, um, what are people thinking about the back end deploys? Is anybody able to get theirs to work? Is anybody able to get a working blog backend? I know we hit the launch, or sorry, we hit the deploy button at the end of class yesterday.
I didn't do anything after class.
Yeah, kind of left us high and dry there at the end. Does anybody think that the blog backend is running? This says redirecting. Yeah, I think the back end crashed. Mm. And this version of the blog backend expects there to be a clerk API key available. Um, we'll get into that. I'm assuming somebody has one of those clerk API keys. Well, anybody seeing something like this? Yeah, this is what I was talking about. There's some kind of fly nonsense going on right now. I don't know if it actually is on their status page. This is what I was talking about. They're having some outages here and there over the last week. So these 500 errors just kind of keep popping back up. But either way, we'll get through it. Hopefully we'll get through it. All right, so yesterday we talked a bit about getting the blog front end and blog back end repo set up, getting back into the habit of pushing to GitHub. One of the things you might have noticed is after we ran the uh, fly launch command, you might have noticed that we had a couple files get generated, specifically a Docker file and a fly.toml. These two files, I'll open this up with VS Code and we can check them out briefly. But the first one and arguably the most important one here is the fly.toml. This gets generated whenever you run that fly launch command. And it really just has the configuration options that you chose when you were going through the prompt. It also has a couple configuration options here that we'll talk about later, but something else I want to point out here is the port. Notice how the port here is set to 3000. That will come into play later. But Fly needs to know what port you're running the backend on. Otherwise, Fly won't know how to map internet traffic to the port that your Node.js server is running on. So we need to match those things up. The other thing that I want to point out is this big Docker file. We won't have time really to talk about this in class unless we have capstones that specifically need something. But the Docker file is kind of like a virtual machine. It lets you specify all the software packages that you need. For example, in my Docker file starting around line 20, you can see that we're installing a bunch of Linux packages in order to bundle up our Node.js server and make it run on Fly. The other kind of important command that you'll see in the Docker file is the command to start up our servers. When you were running your Node server locally, were you using NodeMon? NodeMon as the dev server? Okay. I believe npm run start also triggers NodeMon. I might be wrong, but either way, npm run start. Let's see what the package.json does. Yeah, sure enough. So the package.json, the start script, it just runs the NodeMon server.js. So that's exactly what the Docker file is doing when it bundles up your application. When Fly takes your application, it runs all this stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Flash.
When I open the backend folder in VS Code, it's asking like, do you want to install the recommended Docker?
Mm. Yeah, you can. We probably aren't going to cover Docker during this cohort, but if you're interested in learning more, yeah, feel free to install the extensions and check it out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm. And then as far as for the memory, yeah, I'm expecting the blog to break. There's a couple of things that we need to do to fix it for the deploy to work. So all that to say, when we ran flyctl launch, it created two files, a Docker file and a fly.toml. Make sure that you commit and push those up. You don't want to lose those two files. So I'll show you on my screen. And for those joining, we are talking about the two new files that we got when we ran flyctl launch. So let's go ahead and commit those and push them up. So if you open up GitHub Desktop and switch to the blog backend, you should see that there's actually, it's already probably picked up those two new files. It looks like I also got a Docker ignore, and looks like it also added a dev dependency to my package.json, which is fine. So go into GitHub Desktop, make sure your blog backend is selected, and just commit and push whatever changes are there. Just to make sure, though, that we're all caught up, yesterday we ran the flyctl launch command inside of blog backend. And once you finished running flyctl launch, please come over to this spreadsheet and paste the link that it gives you. So come over here to the backend link column and give me that link that you got when you ran flyctl launch. And I'll just pause here because I think we're missing quite a few backend links. So give people time to run through flyctl launch. If you have any questions about how to run through the flyctl launch, slide 35, I'll go ahead and share my screen again, but slide 35 has a lot of the instructions for what to do when it prompts you. For those that already have launched their blog backend, feel free to jump ahead and try to figure out why it is that clicking on that link is borked. Try to see if you could figure out why the blog backend is crashing.
Nathan, could you paste the link to the slide deck in the Zoom chat?
Yep, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Shay, are you able to run the Flight CTL launch? Sure, if Shay's here. No, okay. Actually, we might have everybody already played. Tara, are you able to run that command?
I'm working on it because I had an issue with the card thing yesterday. So now I'm
Okay.
just trying to follow through the prompts.
Okay. Let me know if you have any issues with the prompt. Otherwise, once it's done, you should get a link. If you could throw that onto that spreadsheet.
Okay, 1 minute.
Brandy, how are things going with you?
Help.
Sure. Yeah, share your
Um,
screen.
Okay. What do you want me to share?
Show me, let's start with GitHub Desktop. Give me whatever desktop has GitHub Desktop and terminal and all that. And then I'll jump over to you, Corwin, after this. But Corwin, from within the blog backend repo, run that flyctl launch command.
Okay.
Cool.
So
Show me the VS Code. This. Open in VS Code.
I might-
Back in GitHub Desktop. If you click that open in VS Code, it's the first button up there in the. Let me grab my pen. Yeah, click this.
Okay.
So if you expand that, yeah. Okay, so we need the backend files. So go ahead and
That's what it
Close-
was. I was gonna stick around yesterday and I forgot.
oh, okay. So go ahead and close this. We need to grab code first. Take me back to GitHub Desktop. All right. In the current repository, switch that over. Did you make a clone of CIC5? Do you have where have you been pulling the careers in code from, like all of Max's code? Do you have a copy of that on your machine somewhere?
Um,
Oh, okay. You're in it. That was where you were. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's actually just go and grab a fresh copy of it. So close out of this and then go to GitHub, or sorry, back to GitHub Desktop. In the repo picker in GitHub Desktop, click add, that add box, clone repository. I want you to click on URL over the URL tab over on the right. Yep. And then for the URL, it's hackupstate /CIC -C5. CIC -C5. Okay, cloned. Perfect. Okay, click show Finder. All right, keep this up open, like on the left or something. All right. Yeah, kind of drag this over to the left. There you go. Perfect. Yep. Now back in GitHub Desktop, let's go and open up the backend again, the blog backend. So switch over to blog backend. There you go. Click the yep. Click show Finder again. So now we'll have our two Finder windows open. All right, get that kind of pushed over to the right so we could drag stuff into it. And then yeah, from the C5, go down to about week 20, I think was where we wanted to be. There you go. Day 3. Log back in. Grab everything in here. Drag it over.
Can I just drag this folder over?
Nope, grab the files. We don't want the folder. We just want the files inside. Perfect. All right. Now let's go back to to GitHub Desktop. Yeah, you can close these if you'd like. Yeah. Cool. And then up there in the top where it says repository, in the menu bar up on top. There you go. Yep. Open in VS Code. There we go. Now we've got the code editor open here. Let's get a terminal going. Great. All right. Type fly. Let's see if the command is installed. I think you had it installed. Yep. Hit enter.
What's that?
Just fly. There you go. Cool. All right. Do a fly launch.
Why what?
Space launch. App name, probably just want to call it Brandy-blog-backend. You can call it whatever you want, but cool. Enter. It's gonna ask you if you want to expand this up a little bit. Ask you where you want to be. That's good enough. Hit enter. Yes. Why? Go up one and select development. Perfect. Yes. And after this is done, it's going to ask you if you want Redis. You'll say no, and then it will spit out a link.
Okay.
We will wait though. This should be pretty quick. Cool. Would you like to set up Redis? No. All right. And do a fly deploy. Okay, enter. Yep. Now we're actually pushing the code up. This is building that Docker file. It's pushing the Docker container up, and it's going to execute that. So your Node.js server will start running up on fly. This is where it will give you that link.
Okay.
Here in a sec. And this is where it will probably fail. Maybe it's, yeah, it's gonna hit a warning. There you go. Visit your newly deployed app at brandy-blog-backend. Grab that link, throw that in the spreadsheet, and you're all caught up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? You got yours, nice. Corwin, were you able to get a fly deployed run? Do you mind throwing your link in the spreadsheet? And Shay's not here. Okay. All right.
Nathan Palash had a question in the chat.
Yeah. So Palash, you are right. That is one of the issues that we have going on right now. So great intuition. We've got stuff with Postgres that we need to consider. Let me share my screen and show, and let's start debugging this and figuring out why our app isn't working. All right. So common questions. Why is my app crashing? The first and easiest way to find out what's going on is to go into a terminal and say fly logs. That will give you the most recent logs from the previous from the current deploy. You can also get to these from the fly website. So the same thing can be reached by going to fly, the dashboard, clicking on the app, and then going to monitoring, and you'll get the same logs on the web page. So either one of these two will give you information on what's going on here. So go ahead and run fly logs in your terminal. And then my next question is, can anybody tell me what's crashing? What's causing it to not start up? Is anybody able to run fly logs and get some output? See what's going on?
Is it a space between fly and logs?
It is, yes. So the command is fly CTL or just fly, either one works, logs. If you run that, Sakota, are you able to get a bunch of output? Okay.
Yep.
Is your app listening on 3000? Yep, there's one. There's another issue. Exactly. Is your app listening on 3000? I have that error too. Is anybody else seeing an error module not found in their logs?
Yes, it's saying like app clerk API key.js and the app server.js can't be found.
What do you think's going on there?
Git ignore, I think. Because like ignoring the app key file.
Do you have a git ignore for clerk API key?
Probably, yeah. I think he Max wanted us to like hide it.
Ah, so you
So
didn't accidentally push it up to GitHub. Uh-huh. So I don't think that since we all copied our code fresh from the CIC5 repo, I don't think any of us have that clerk API key. You might have in the folder where you were working on this with Max and Ryan, but over here we don't have that clerk API key.js inside of this folder. So you can resolve this by going and finding that clerk API key.js and bringing it into the blog backend. Alternatively, because we're just doing this for deployment purposes, I'm just going to turn off clerk. I think to do that, all we need to do is wherever we're using clerk, take it out. So for example, in the server.js, we're importing clerk on lines 10 and 11. I'm just going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. This whole middleware. Oh, this is all really tightly integrated. Okay, new game plan. Let's find a working clerk API key.js and not try to delete this out.
Yeah, I think Max may have disabled his because it was in the class video. So if everyone uses their own, if they have them,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Kind
if-
of wondering. I'm kind of wondering if we could just share one for the purposes of this demo. Does anybody have a clerk API key that they're willing to share with the class? Alternatively, I could go and get one, probably. Does anybody not know where their clerk API key is? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Yeah, let's look at this really quick. So what does this user token middleware do? Well, it does a bunch of stuff and then it sets something on the request.auth. So anywhere that request.auth is being used will break. That's not great. But it looks like it's really just being used to do this admin check. Let me check the database as well real quick. Make sure that it's not being used here. Not being used here. Okay. All right, class, let's do some surgery then. We're gonna remove clerk. We're gonna rip clerk out of the blog backend. So I think I'm gonna do this and then I'll just post the server.js and everybody can copy it. So give me a moment to hack on this. So I'm gonna get rid of clerk in my server.js. I'm gonna get rid of the middleware. Get rid of this. Get rid of all of this. Get rid of this. every post is going to be created by me. And I think that's it. I think that's all we have to do to rip out Clerk from this. So here is the code. I'm going to paste it into, let me paste it into CIC 5. Is there another Slack room that you all have been using for snippets? Does CIC C5 work in Slack?
I think that's where all of the files from class have been getting posted.
Okay. So I pasted my server.js in there. Feel free to copy that and paste it into your server.js. Just to make sure that this actually works, I'm gonna, oh, sorry, there's a bug. Get rid of this. Crashed. Yeah, that should be better. All right. Let me edit that comment in Slack. Okay, edited. Now copy and paste that server.js into yours. And I just pasted in Zoom chat the link to the Slack message where I posted server.js. That should be enough to get us around the clerk stuff for now, because we're just mostly focused on the deploy part here. All right. So we've changed our code. Now we need to redeploy. So let's see what the changes to the code does to our backend deploy. Let's run our deploy again. So flyctl deploy. Every time we change code, we'll have to rerun that deploy to push our latest code up to fly.
So when I do mines, it doesn't do anything. Do I need to like stop it and then restart it? My terminal?
What do you mean when you rerun fly deploy, it doesn't do anything?
Yes. Like I'm not sure. Like, can I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so Control C in the terminal. These are the logs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Control C. All right. Do a fly. Did you paste that server.js that I put in the Slack room? Cool. Yep. Fly deploy. That will push up this new code.
Thank you.
I apologize if I glossed over that. After you run fly logs, your terminal will hang there because it's waiting for new logs. Any new logs that your app emits will show up in the terminal. If you want to get out of the logs and stop streaming the logs to your terminal, just hit Control C, just like any other long running command. Control C will take you out of it. So if you deploy and run fly logs again, you should hopefully get some new errors. Let me know if you do. Should be seeing something different. Some things will be the same, but some things will look a little different.
So so after this is the same link, right?
Mhm.
So now you want me to try this?
Yeah, feel free to click on it. See if you get anything now. Is your back end working? When I go and visit my back end, I'm still getting nothing. It just spins. Database issue. Yep. Good identification. Yeah, we still got issues. If you run fly logs, you should see something like this, and the dead giveaway is panic, DB issue. Is anybody not seeing this in their logs when they run fly log? Is anybody not getting a DB issue? Does anybody know what the DB issue is here? Yeah, so Kodo, if you're not getting anything, that's it's probably because the back end is still crashing. So check out the logs. If you run fly logs in the terminal, see what you see if you get these DB connection issues. Brandy, yours is gonna say, yeah, reboot. I think everyone's is probably saying reboot, restart system, because Fly will, if your app crashes, Fly will continually retry to launch it, hoping that it will restart. You get instance refusing connection. I get the same thing too, and that is because when we try to hit our backend using the browser, it's refusing the connections. It's not able to Fly is not able to take that traffic and link it up with our Node.js app. So we're just getting a whole bunch of errors right now. But we're also getting a bunch of helpful hints. For example, the instance refused connection error here is telling us what we need to do. It's asking us, is our app actually listening on port 3000? So that's kind of a dead giveaway for one of the issues. So we have really two things going on here. The first is that our Node.js app is not able to connect to the database. So this econ refused, these errors that you see trying to connect to port 5432, that's our Node.js app trying to talk to Postgres and failing. What is 127001? That's exactly right. That's your local loopback. That's your local IP. So it's saying your Node.js app is trying to connect to Postgres on your machine, but it can't because this isn't our Mac. We're not running Postgres locally on our machine anymore. So our Node.js app can't reference the local Mac, the local IP, and connect to Postgres. It's not there anymore. Well, where is it? Let me show you. So if you want to connect to that database that that Fly provisioned for you when you went through the Fly CTL launch, we have to make a change to our app. And to make the change, we need to go to where we're connecting to the database. Does anybody know where we're connecting to it? In the blog example, where we actually instantiate the connection to the database? 3011 is where we're instantiating the port for our Node.js server. So that's the port which folks can use to reach the Node.js app. Where do we go to instantiate the connection with our database? If we take a brief look through the server.js, yeah, where are we connecting to Postgres? So if we look through server.js, here's a bunch of handlers for all these different endpoints. Nothing really happening here. Here's where we listen. We have the Node.js server listen on port 3011, so it's not in here. Let's go take a look at the database. This is just a table for the comment. Here's the reply. This is just a table for the comment reply. Here's db.js. This looks suspect here, right? This is making a connection to localhost 5432. So this doesn't exist when we're deployed. What we want to use is an environment variable that Fly gives us. And that environment variable is called process.env.databaseURL. If we're running on Fly, this will be defined. If we're running locally, this variable will be undefined. So this is a special variable only available when we're running on Fly. I'll paste that variable name. And the docs, Fly environment variables. Fly has a bunch of different environment variables when you're running, a bunch of different values that you get when you're running on Fly. And this is the big manual with all of the different environment variables. We're not going to use any of them really, except for the database variable. Let me find the right doc. This is the Rails one. I have Fly database. Let's see. It's actually in our dashboard here. Let's see. Here we go. Database URL. Yep. So I had the spelling right. So what we want to do is when we're connecting to Postgres, when we're deployed on Fly, is we want to use this special variable. But if we're not running on Fly, we want to fall back to the connection string when we're running locally. So we need to write a little bit of logic here. So you need something like this, where we'll create a box or we'll create a variable called database URL, and then we'll check to see if this variable holds a value. If it does, we will overwrite the contents of the box with that value. And then we can change this SQLized connection to use that variable. So from the beginning, one more time, let me get rid of this. We'll start off by trying to attempt to connect to our local Mac Postgres. But if we find out that this database URL contains a value, we'll switch the contents of that box to whatever is in that special variable. And then with whatever value we have inside of the database URL box, we'll connect using Sequelize. Save this code and keep it handy because we'll need it for our capstones. We'll need to play our capstones. We'll need to do the same thing. But if you take that and edit your db.js and add that little snippet here at the top, and I'll take that exact snippet and paste it into the Slack chat where I originally posted the server.js.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since we had upstate at localhost, do we need to change that to our name?
Possibly. When you were running this locally before, did you need to change it to your name? You did? Okay. So this probably needs to be altered to be whatever your user is. So for example, I think mine is Nevins on my computer. So you probably need to change that. Good call. All right, let's see if that works. Let's see if it can make a connection to our Postgres database now. After you change that code, run fly deploy again. And then let's check fly logs. Mine says connected to database. Is anybody else able to get it connected to database? After they run flyctl deploy. Taylor, you're still crashing. Is it, what is it crashing on? Is it crashing in the same way that it looks like on my screen where it's saying warn the following packages?
It stopped at nodemon app crashed waiting for file changes before starting. So that seems bad.
Interesting. Do you mind sharing?
Yes.
Oh, you're getting the panic DB issue? Okay. App crashed waiting for file changes. Control C.
Oh,
Get out of the terminal.
Yep.
Okay, and then do fly logs one more time. Okay. Error module not found. What is it saying that it can't find? You scroll up in the logs.
Oh yeah.
Dang, it can't find
Oh,
Molter.
Molter. Oh, I might have missed something on that.
Cannot find package Molter imported by app. I'm wondering if that is just a. Yeah, it's a dependency in package.json. Do you have it in your package.json?
Should be.
You scroll down in dependencies. It looks like you're just missing an import for
Oh,
Molter.
I must have missed that import. Okay.
So you can get that with an npm install -- save. Yeah, Molter.
Okay.
Cool. Now, fly deploy. Brandy, no, we're all seeing the back end is not working for anybody right now. We're step by step debugging each of the issues that exist with the blog backend. All right.
Cool. Fly logs.
Yes, please.
Oh, great. Now is it missing?
Get up on package JSON web to here. Let me just give you my package.json. So just take that from Slack and paste that over your package JSON.
The take this.
I sent it to you a direct message.
Oh, directly.
right
Okay,
below
I
you.
didn't see it.
Yep.
I didn't see that down there. Okay, cool.
And you should just be able to straight deploy that. So fly CTL deploy and then try logs.
That didn't happen last time.
RMRF the package lock.json or delete that package lock.json file. Yep, delete it. And then in the terminal down below, do an npm install. Try that one more time. Fly CTL deploy. Yeah, I think it expects to use that package lock. That looks a bit more promising. Okay. The requested module does not provide an export name, comment, reply. I'm guessing that you didn't start this project from a clean copy of CIC5, the CIC5 folder.
I don't think. All right, I thought I did, but we're honestly.
Okay. It's saying that DBJS doesn't have a comment reply. Yeah, you're missing the, you've got comment.js, but we're missing the comment reply table.
Ah, okay.
And that is, if you want to create a comment reply.js inside of the DB folder, comment, yeah, JS. I sent you over Slack the name of the file and then the contents of the file. They go inside of the DB folder. Try try creating that file, try rerunning through those steps and tell me if that helps.
Okay.
Shannon, you got it connected to the database. Nice job. It should still be crashing, but you're one step further. So we're trying to resolve those. Brandy, were you able to run fly logs and get connected to database to show up in the logs?
I guess I'm not sure what I should be seeing. The terminal says that I can visit my newly developed app, but when I go to it, all I get is a blank page. So
Right.
I'm not sure what I'm looking.
Okay. So we're trying to troubleshoot why we're seeing a blank page, why the website is crashing. To do that, if you go in the terminal and run fly logs, do you get a whole bunch of output?
That's what I.
Whole
Just
bunch of
says
stuff.
reboot, restarting system.
Do you mind sharing your screen, show me? Yeah, so it's just continually crashing and restarting. Continually crashing and restarting. Okay. So go to show me db.js. You've got, so down on line 15, notice where you're making your new SQLized connection. Change that hard-coded string where you've got Postgres, B Taylor, localhost 5432 on line 15. Drop all that out right here. Drop this out and replace it with this variable. So take out that entire string, everything in between the quotes. Just take out, delete all of this. Okay, yep, delete all that, including the quotes, and then type in database URL. Let's use that variable that we declared up on line 11. So database, start typing out database. Okay, that's the variable you want. Perfect. All right. So down below in the terminal, Control C, get out of the logs. And then we've changed the code, so let's push up a new deploy of our server. So let's do a fly. Yep, exactly. Exactly, yep. And this will take a second for it to build, so just hold on. Other folks, when I pasted that snippet, make sure that your connection to SQLize is actually using that database URL variable. Otherwise, we won't pick up the right value from fly and make the correct connection. All right, let's try fly logs, see what the backend's doing. Connected to database, very nice, nicely done. Control C and wait for the next troubleshooting step. Go ahead, Sequoia.
Okay.
I just made the changes that you said. I'm
Mhm.
trying to wait to see when I do the fly logs if it works.
Yeah, you want to show us? Have you been able to connect to the database? It's the log saying connected to database.
No. Hold up, I'll share.
Perfect, Tara.
No,
Okay, fly logs, yep. let's see what the back end's doing. Connected to database, you're exactly where you need to be.
Thank you.
Yep. Taylor, were you able to get the connected to database message?
Not yet. Still waiting for it to build again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the fun of deploying. Usually it's a little fix plus another deploy. It's a time-consuming loop. All right, let's move on to the next issue. So a lot of people have been calling it out in chat already, but there's really one last issue that's preventing us from actually reaching the back end. It's why we're still getting a blank page when we go to visit the back end. And it's that port. Palash noticed that there is a mismatch between the port in the fly.toml and the server.js. If you scroll to the bottom of server.js, notice that we bind the Node.js app to port 3011. But in the fly.toml, the port we're saying that our service listens on is 3000. So we have two options here. We can either make our port 3000 or we can make our port 3011. I don't care which one you choose. I'm just going to change the internal port in the fly.toml from 3000 to 3011, and I'm going to redeploy. So we've got the clerk issues. Sorry, we've got the clerk issues fixed. We have the database connection fixed, and now we're fixing the port. With those three issues, we should have a working backend. Corwin, to reach ZSHRC, open up a terminal and type in this command.
So we do the fly logs after we deploy again.
Feel free to. Remember, fly logs is just to be able to see what the output of the server is saying. It's
Oh.
similar to what you would see if you were running npx start or npm start or nodemon in your terminal locally. So it gives you an idea of what the server is doing. If your logs say something like connected to database and it's running on port 3011, go try to hit the URL now. You should get some kind of message. So Quota, you've got a status online, very nice. These are the same issues you're gonna hit. Nice. Very, very nice. This is involved stuff. There's a lot of little moving pieces, a lot of little tiny things here and there that we have to adjust. These are the same things we're gonna hit with the capstone. When you go to deploy your capstone, I'll make sure that that you have a concise list. The slides are kind of an exhaustive list of all the steps that you need to perform, but I'll make sure that we have a concise list for tomorrow to get our capstones deployed. It's usually just a couple of these problem spots. It's connecting to the database. It's connecting. It's using the right port. Those are the things that we need to adjust. Very cool. Palash, are you able to reach?
It's still running.
Okay, cool. Corwin. Oh, are you having troubles getting the fly command? Getting it to recognize the fly command? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Tara. Corwin, I'll come back to you here in a minute.
While we were waiting, I just wanted to, if we could just recap and explain what the issue was with the clerk. Is that because the API key was hidden, or what was the issue with clerk and why it had to be removed?
It had to be removed because I didn't have an API key. I wasn't here when you all set that up, so I didn't go through the steps to get an API key. Also, I asked everybody in class to start from a fresh copy of code for the backend, so it was unlikely that anybody else had their clerk API key in that folder. Because remember, we created a new repo and we copied code into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for those kind of logistical reasons that I got rid of clerk.
But so
That's
like
not to say,
in normal circumstances, if we created our own API key for clerk, then it should have pushed through. Okay.
absolutely.
All right. And that's what I was just trying to clarify.
Yep, absolutely. There's nothing stopping you from using clerk with this deployed. All right. Palash.
Did we also change the port in Docker file, like where it says expose 3000?
Good catch. Interesting.
Because I'm still like, when I'm running like running fly deploy, it's still getting given some errors. It's like online, but still it says your app is your app listening to 3000.
Yeah, so I think that the way the expose command works in Dockerfile is if you don't specify a port, that's the default it will use. Because we're specifying 3011 though, it's going to manually assign port 3011. It's going to manually bridge the two ports together. So I think it would be wise to change the expose in the Docker file from 3000 to 3011. But in this case, it's not a big problem if we don't update that. But great catch.
Thank you.
Corwin, do you want to share your screen and we'll try to get that fly command installed real quick? Cool. Yeah. Do you mind if I take over control for a second? Okay. Just want to see here really quick. If we look at this, let's fix this real quick. And then down at the very, very bottom, here are your commands to basically install flyctl. So now if we reload that missing xc run, interesting. Well, can we at least fly now? No. Exec format. Yeah, okay. What is this? Okay, so this got forked. I think what we want to do is do an Xcode here. Xcode select install. That's it. Select install. I think we want to do this. And then I'm gonna have to come back because this thing takes absurdly long to install. Okay. Once that installs, then we'll go back in and I think those errors will go away.
Can it be installed because the it's not available from the software update server.
Sorry, show me one more time.
Share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not currently available from the software update server. Okay. Let's figure that out. If you don't mind, let's figure that out during break, because this seems strange. Giving you some stuff.
I'm on a beta. I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Like a beta of OSX?
Yeah, I'm on Sonoma. So I'm on 14 right now instead of 13.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, let's figure that out later. That sounds like we need to do some Googling to figure out how to get command line tools installed. Or if you want to take that on yourself, XC run is part of command line tools, Apple's command line tools. When you run that command, it should install it for you. So I would start by Googling like Sonoma XC run or Sonoma command line tools, something like that. Okay. All right, so it looks like most everybody was able to get status online, working backend. Just looking around real quick. Okay. Awesome.
I got a
All right, so
question.
go ahead.
If the if it's connected to the database, why does it keep trying to run? Like, why does it keep repeating itself in the terminal?
Like you have the logs, you're running the logs command and it continues to loop on it.
Yeah.
Can you share,
Yes.
can you show?
Sure. I mean, I guess it might not be a big deal, but I just was kind of wondering if it's just supposed to keep looping.
So notice the timestamps over on the left. So this is a good example for everybody else to see here. Notice the timestamps on the left. So it's going from, let's see, what is that? 2243. All of these are in UTC, so that's why the hours are kind of strange. But it's going from 6:37 to 6:38 to 6:42 to 6:43. So Tara, these the important thing to pay attention to is right around here. Some of these logs are old, but pay attention to the minutes there. So the most recent logs that happened in the last 5 minutes are all from this point down. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that is the hour. This is the minute right here, the 43. So the most recent logs are there at the bottom. This is going in chronological order here. So the oldest are up here and the newest are down there, similar to when you run this in your own terminal.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So let me share a couple things here to be aware of that Fly is about what Fly is doing for you, and you'll want to pay attention because this is going to make a difference for demo day. So one of the things that Fly does when your app is not being used is it downscales it. So if there's no traffic that's hitting it, Fly will turn off machines. Yeah, Corwin, the command line tools are freaking huge. So that's why I was saying it's going to take a minute. So best of luck there. But one thing to be aware of with Fly is that if your app isn't receiving any traffic, meaning that nobody is visiting it, meaning that nobody is hitting your backend, Fly will put those machines to sleep. And that's because you're using the hobby plan. And we have this in the most cost saving mode right now. So that can be a surprise. Like right now, let me take a look at my app. Right now, if we look at the logs, notice here down in the logs that it says downscaling app from 1 machine to 0 machines. You'll see this in your logs as well if you haven't been refreshing the back end. And what that means is Fly is just turning stuff off because it doesn't look like it's getting any traffic. What that actually means, though, is if you go and refresh, if you actually go and visit the website, it's going to take, that was about 5 seconds for one of those machines to warm up. I mention this because at graduation, if you haven't pre-warmed these machines up, you might get up there and go to visit the website and it just spins, and you might have about 5 seconds of pure anxiety and terror, thinking that your website might be broken. It's not. Fly has just put those machines to sleep. If you don't want your machines to go to sleep and you want to pay the couple of cents per month to have one machine running all the time, where you can make that change is in VS Code, go to the fly.toml, and where it says auto stop machines, leave that to true. You can let Fly turn those machines off, but change the min machines running to 1. That will make sure that at least for the next couple of weeks, you'll always have at least 1 machine running, so you will never pay that 5-second startup penalty. Okay. You can also see what's going on with your machines with a couple other commands, and I'm going to show those really quick. Fly CTL status or fly status will show you what machines are actually running right now. So every time you deploy, you typically start off with 2 machines, and Fly will eventually put both of them to sleep unless you have that min number of machines set to 1. In my case, you can see that one of the machines has woken up because I just hit the back end while the other one is sleeping. You can also see the name of the app and all that other stuff, so there's not really a whole lot of helpful information here. The more interesting command is flyctl scale show. Let me paste these commands so that you have an easier time running them in your own terminal. If you run scale show, it's a little bit more interesting because it shows you how much resources is actually allocated to your app. So in this case, we have 2 machines. Each machine has 1 CPU. Each machine has 256 megabytes of RAM. What you'll need for your capstone, I have no idea. I don't know what everyone's capstone is. This is kind of a good starting point, but is it possible that you'll run out of memory or you won't have enough CPU for your capstone? It's possible. Can anybody think of ways that their capstone might run out of memory or might run out of CPU? Or said another way, is anyone concerned that their capstone might run out of CPU or RAM?
I think mine might, just because of like saved character data and stuff like that, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Character data, meaning that maybe with image uploads? Yeah, that's actually a really good one. If your capstone does anything with images, like uploads them or applies filters to them, or really does anything that requires loading a big piece of data into memory, RAM will be a constraint there. That's actually a really good one. Other applications where CPU might be a factor. Shannon, you're uploading photos. So that's one thing that we have to keep in mind is, and we could do some quick napkin math to try to figure it out. So let's say that we have a website that is, let's say our capstone is going to be, and Shannon, what is a typical photo size that you think users will be uploading? Are we talking single digits, double digits? What do you think? No clue. Okay. Here's a lovely picture of me. Let's see how big it is. Let's see. Export. There we go. 1.7. So at best quality, let's say 3.7. So let's round that out to 4. So how much memory is that? Well, if we're saying our instance has 256 megabytes of RAM, then we should be able to divide that by 4, and that will tell us how many photos can be uploaded. That is about 64. So that's 64 photos that can be uploaded simultaneously, right? Because we're talking about how many photos it would take to fill the RAM for this machine. If we have 256 megabytes of RAM, then it would take 64 photos being uploaded simultaneously to start running out of memory. But then we also need to budget in some breathing room there, right? Because if we have 64 people uploading a 4 megabyte photo a piece, that's not going to leave the program any room to run, right? Because we have variables, we do all sorts of stuff within our Node.js web server. So if we take the 64, we trim it down, we're probably looking more at like 60 photos that could be uploaded. So if that number of 60 photos at a time is reasonable to you, which I think is reasonable for a capstone, then I think this default setting will work. Okay. But there are a lot of different sizes, and I will show that at the end. There's a whole page for going over that. There's a ton of different size machines that you can rent from Fly. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the Postgres database. We need to find a way to log into it with Beekeeper, because I'm sure there's some stuff that you're going to need to be able to do manually with your deployed database. You have Beekeeper set up right now to be able to communicate with your local Postgres database, but your local Postgres database and your Fly database are two separate things. They're two different Postgres installations. So we're going to look at what it takes to connect to Postgres after the break. So see everybody at 7:20. Yeah, 7:20. Cora, I'm gonna run for a minute, but then I'll be back if you want. If you still want some help. I'm assuming you're still downloading, so it's probably gonna be a bit.
Yeah, it's still expand. Like it's probably going to take the whole break, honestly.
All right, no worries.
All right.
Resume the recording.
Okay, so just share the screen.
Fly proxy, you're missing a space between the the 5432 and the A. So go back up.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Thank you.
Wait, hold on. Just show me that it works. I think you're also missing a dash DB at the end of the back end. So click in there, press
I didn't
up.
put that in there initially.
Oh, okay. Just use the arrow keys to navigate over. So left, keep pressing left. Then once you get to that dash space, okay, and then at the very end, arrow keys again, put a dash DB, and I think you'll be all set. Perfect. Now your terminal is sitting there proxying to your backend DB. So you're in the right spot. Nice job.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else not able to get that proxy working? All right. So what that does is it opens up a tunnel from your machine to the Fly Postgres database. Now we need to connect to it with Beekeeper, and this is where things get a little tricky. Let me share my screen again. So back when we created our database using flyctl launch, it actually omitted some secrets that we need. So go scroll back in your terminal and try to find where you created your database, where you're answering all of those prompts. I should have pointed this out. There's a little message here that says, save your credentials. You won't be able to see them again. They absolutely mean that. There's a password there that we need that you cannot get on Fly again. So we need to go back in our terminals and try to find that. If you can't find it, we'll have to do a workaround. But try to see if you can find it. Scroll way back in your terminal. If you have search in your terminal, if you can hit Control F and search for the words secure place, that will take you back to here. No luck. I'm seeing a couple people shaking their heads. No. Yeah. Yeah. That's a little tricky. So the workaround here is we actually have to destroy and recreate the database. That's why you saw that I had DB2 in mind, because I also lost my credentials. Fortunately, the process for recreating the database is pretty straightforward. So let's just all do it together. And this time, after we create the database, we'll make sure that we save our credentials so we can connect to our database. All right, so we're going to detach and recreate the Postgres database. To do that, in terminal, Control-C, get out of the proxy. So instead of sitting there proxying that port, Control-C, get out of it, come back to the terminal. So we need to type in fly Postgres detach. And then I believe it takes an app name. Go back to the slides. Yeah. So the name of the database that you had before. So it could be, it's the app name that you used when you were doing the proxy before. Dash again. Oops, sorry. Fly Postgres. Did I spell detach wrong? I did. I put an extra T in there. And it's not dash. There we go. So you'll need some variation of what I just posted in the Zoom chat, replacing Nathan blog backend DB with whatever your DB name is. So start off by detaching that Postgres database. It should say something like detach completed successfully. If you didn't get that, let me know. Okay, Once you're detached, we're going to make another database and do fly Postgres create. Shannon, what did you paste exactly the DB name that you used in the proxy? Yes. What did it say?
It's just it gave me options of help and available commands. I don't know what I did wrong.
Can you share?
Yeah.
Can you show me?
Mhm.
It looks like Shannon blog backend DB. Yeah, fly Postgres. You also have an extra T in there. So go back and click on the terminal, press up to get to that last command. And then arrow key back over, get rid of that extra T and detach. It's the one between A and C, yeah. Enter.
Okay.
And then hit enter again. This will detach. Perfect. So we detached your Postgres database. Other folks able to do it as well? Cool. All right, so we got step one, detach. Let's go and create the database, create a new one. This time we'll make sure we save the credentials. So fly Postgres create. When it says choose an app name, let's give it something similar to what the old one is. I just did Nathan blog backend DB2. You can do whatever you want. You can call it whatever. Just make sure that you remember it. I am all the way up on, mine's going to be DB3. Pick a location, make sure it's development mode. Scale it to 0 after 1 hour, yes. Here's that command that I just typed, fly Postgres create. Now, when you spin up your capstone, you won't have the same problem. You'll make sure that you save the secrets that it prints out when you create your Postgres database for your backend. All right. Now I've got my credentials for my database, and this time I'm going to copy them to a secure place because I'm not able to see them again. Everybody able to get their credentials? Everybody got some credentials to a Postgres database?
Mine
Starting
is
to get there.
working.
Still thinking? Okay. Shannon, what do you got? Is it still thinking or is it borked?
I think I'm just behind.
So after you did that detach, because we just did the detach together, right?
Mhm.
After that, do the fly Postgres create.
Yep, I've got that. Um, it's asking me production. Like,
Click up to the development one. Press up and hit enter.
okay.
And then when it says scale to 0 after an hour, hit yes.
And my validation failed. Name may only contain numbers, lowercase letters, and dashes.
Oh,
I think
so try.
case.
Yeah, exactly. Try to fix that. Just run fly Postgres create again and. All right.
Seems like everything's working now.
All right, great. And so you've got all of this stuff printed out.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just thinking.
The important thing that we want to make sure that we save is this connection string right here. So once it prints out that connection string, save that somewhere in a text file or a clipboard, anywhere, somewhere durable. Email it to yourself, something like that. It's the password there. That is what we will not be able to see again once we close the terminal. So save that whole connection string somewhere. I'm just going to go and throw it in a text file. That's how I'm going to keep mine. And then in the terminal, once you've got that, run fly Postgres attach and pass it the name of your Postgres app that you just created. So mine was Nathan blog backend DB3. So I'll paste this command in Zoom. What this does is it takes that Postgres that you just created and it links it with your Node.js backend. And it updates that process.end.database URL. It updates that special variable that we're using to connect with SQLize. Again, for yours, though, make sure when you run fly Postgres attach, make sure you replace that DB name with the name of the DB that you just created. And you should get something like this. Anybody able to attach successfully? Cool. Shannon, Brandy, attach. Working okay? Shannon, you got to attach? Nice. Brandy, were you able to attach? Tara attached, nice.
No,
Where are you at?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I've got, I saved the credentials.
Oh, you have them.
Yes, I got that
were
far.
nice. Then
What-
you don't need to do any of this.
No. No, I have the credentials from this time.
Oh, great. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly where you should be. You were able to run attach and you've got a connection string and all that.
Oh, yes.
This guy? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh,
Then
okay.
I'm confused. Can you share your screen? Oh, yeah. I should probably stop. That would be helpful. Go for it. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Scroll up just a little bit. You have credentials, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. You have your DB2. Okay. Run the attach. So fly CTL or fly whatever, and then attach. Or sorry, it's fly CTL Postgres attach. Space attach. Perfect. And then what was the name of your Brandy blog backend DB? DB2? Is that what you called it?
I think I accidentally screwed it up when I typed it in this time. That's fine. I don't care.
Backend 2? DB2? Yeah. Oh, nice.
Okay, so now I'm good.
It's all linked up. Yep, you're all good.
Okay.
Very cool. All right, we can do the beekeeper things now. Sorry, folks. I will make sure for future reference that I ensure that we capture that secret so we don't have to recreate our database because that's pretty annoying. All right, now we can go to proxy and connect with beekeeper. So let's go back to running that proxy command. So it was fly proxy 5433, whatever, and then the name of your database. So here is my proxy command. In the terminal, run that same command, updating, of course, your database name instead of using mine. leave that terminal open. We need to keep this proxy running while we while we establish a connection using Beekeeper. Open up Beekeeper in another window. Take that connection string with Beekeeper open and paste it into this import from URL in Beekeeper. So when you open Beekeeper, there's that new connection box over on the right. Import from URL, paste that connection string in. So again, what you should have is you should have a terminal running the proxy command. You should have Beekeeper open. Click on that import from URL. We're going to make a new connection. We're going to connect to it to our Fly database. Paste that connection string in, and then hit import.
Hold on, mine's not my Beekeeper does not look like that. I have to figure out why.
Anybody else's Beekeeper look different, or were folks able to? I could have an old version of Beekeeper. Shannon, yours looks like mine.
Can you show it one more time?
Are you able to see my Beekeeper here?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see it now. It was like a small, okay.
I had closed out, I've been reopened it, now it's good.
Okay, cool. Anybody else having trouble getting to the import from URL for Beekeeper? Widen this up a little bit and blow it up. There we go. So you'll click import from URL, you'll paste it in, hit import, and then let's tweak a couple settings here. The important settings to change are host. We're going to change that from this Flycast blog backend. We're going to change that host to localhost. And then we're going to change port from 5432 to 5433. The reason why is because 5432 is the Postgres that you've been using on your Mac. We're going to switch to 5433 so we don't collide with that. If you hit test, you should get a connection. Looks good. Flush is good. Okay. If you got a successful test, if you're able to click that and get a connection looks good, feel free to go ahead and give that connection a name, something like Fly database or blog backend, something descriptive. Feel free to save that. For password, that should have been in the connection string. So when you click that import from URL and you paste it in that connection string that was in the terminal, it should have hydrated that for you, the password for you. Did it not do that?
You said the password is in the credentials.
Well, if you hit that import from URL, it should fill it out for you. Is it not doing that?
No, no.
Can you share?
Mm.
So hit import from URL up in the top right. Yep. And then paste. So paste in, yep, hit import. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to the terminal where you had that connection string. So go back to the terminal. Yep. And then instead of using that database URL one, use the one up above the connection string here. Use this guy. Yep, exactly. Copy that. Perfect. Yep. Go back to Beekeeper. Yep. Same thing. This time it should hydrate that password. See, it's already filled in. So the only thing you need to change is change localhost, or sorry, host to localhost. All one word. Perfect. Yep. You're already on it. And then give it a test here. Perfect. Give it a name. So like blog backend would be a good connection name, and then hit save. Perfect. You now have a connection for to the back end. Nice job.
Thank you.
Give Taylor and Brandy a minute. Brandy, you're all go ahead, share your screen. Nice there. Cool. Localhost 5433, hit test. Does it okay, I think this is because we're missing the proxy. So we need two things in order for the connection to work. We need Beekeeper, obviously, but we also need to have a terminal running that proxy command. So show me a terminal, or the terminal you've been using. Cool. So run the proxy command. It's fly proxy space 5433 colon alt all smushed together colon 5432 space -a space and then brand blog backend dbt. So we need this command running in the background in order for us to be able to reach that. Yep, hit enter. Leave this terminal running. We need this to be running while we connect to the database. Yep, hit test. You're able to connect. Nice. And hit that save down at the bottom to save the connection. Cool. Now you're able to connect. Nicely done. And I will show you now what we can do with it. So now that we have a connection, we've got our terminal, we've got our Postgres. Now we can double click on it, on that connection that we just saved. And we can select our database from the top like usual, like we would do with our local Postgres database. You're going to see there's a table called your name blog backend. If you go and look inside of that, you should see a whole bunch of tables in there. And that is your Postgres database. I'm a little surprised to not see the, so if for other folks, when you select your database, is anybody able to see the comments table for the blog backend? Okay. I think the reason why is because we need to redeploy our backend app to get it to create tables in this new Postgres. To test that theory, I'm going to go to my blog backend and I'm just going to run fly deploy again. Because we detached and attached and deleted and recreated a database. I think we need to redeploy the blog backend in order to get it to create those tables for the first time in this new database. So jump to your blog backend in another terminal. Make sure you leave that one terminal with the proxy still running, but go and kick off another fly deploy of the backend. Sure enough, I've got tables now because it looks like my app is now connecting to that newly attached database. Are others able to also populate their database after running fly deploy? No luck.
Listen. Oh,
It's a lot of moving parts here. Is anybody not able to log in with Beekeeper to their database? I think everybody was able to log in with Beekeeper, but not everyone was able to see the public tables from the blog backend. Taylor, do you have tables for? You do? You have tables now? So a fly CTL deploy produced those? Cool. Shannon, are you able to see those? Were you able to rerun fly CTL deploy and see them now? Perfect, great. Kalash, fly CTL deploy, no luck.
I did fly CTL deploy, but yeah, I didn't get I just did fly deploy. Does it matter?
Yeah, fly deploy is the same thing. Did you refresh Beekeeper and re-hit that icon? It's still not showing up. Okay. One thing to try is in the terminal, do another fly attach. Rerun that fly attach command.
Okay.
Which is fly Postgres attach. So it's this, and then rerun. It's some variant of this that I just posted in chat. Rerun the attach and then rerun fly deploy, and that will just triple check that everything is all synced up together. In the meanwhile, what I want to show quickly is because you're able to log in with Beekeeper. For example, here is the backend. So my blog backend / posts. Posts is one of the endpoints that we use in the blog backend, right? It's one of the endpoints that lists out each of the post records from the post table. Notice how for my backend and probably for yours as well, if you go to your backend URL / post, you'll get an empty list, right? Because we don't have any posts in the database. Nobody has gone and created any posts, but we can add posts by manually injecting them into the database. So if we go into Beekeeper and we look at the post table, we can add some rows to this table. So I'm going to just manually create a row. I'm going to say, I'm going to set an ID. I'm going to say this is my title, tag, content. I'm just going to fill one of these rows with some garbage data. All right, so I've inserted a row into my comments table. Now, if I go and refresh, my API now is returning a post. So this is going to be really important for your capstone to be able to go and precede your database with data so that when you go and do the demo, you obviously have stuff that's in there that you can show off. So it will be very, very important for you to be able to log into your database and seed it and load data into it. Go ahead, Plush.
Mine says consumer app already contains a secret name database URL.
We probably missed the detach then because it sounds like the two are conflicting. So run the detach again, but make sure that you do the detach using the old database name. So fly Postgres detach. And then instead of detaching whatever your DB2 is, don't detach that one. Detach just the -DB, the old one. Make sure that gets successfully detached. Does that work?
Now it says no attachments found. I think I made a mistake and I did not start a fresh terminal for deploying it.
Okay.
Do I have to like
You
over with all these steps and redeploy?
Yeah, actually, we're getting close for tonight. So I think if you don't mind sticking around for a couple of minutes, we can probably just sort it out real quick.
No problem.
Okay. All right, so that is it for the beekeeper stuff. We will need to go through this again for your capstone backend, but the steps are going to be the exact same. You're going to create an app using Fly, create an app for your capstone backend using Fly, and then whenever you want to log into the database, make sure that you save that connection string and you create a new connection in Beekeeper. And that will get you into your database. And I can help set that up for your capstone as well if there are parts of it that you don't remember. The whole attach, detach, create, that whole step can be mitigated by making sure that you save that connection string when you're creating the app for the first time. And it will save you from a lot of that headache. Any questions about this? I know we covered a whole lot of little moving pieces. Any questions about what we've covered so far? Okay. Just want to cover a couple more things and then we'll wrap up for tonight. And this is really more of a sit back and watch. I'm not expecting you to do this on your machine, but I want to talk really quickly about scaling. There's a notion with deploys of horizontal versus vertical scaling. And what we've talked about so far has been what's known as vertical scaling. It's if we need to upload more images, if we need more memory, if we need more CPUs, vertical scaling is where we just go and get a bigger computer. And you can totally do that with Fly. There's all these instance types on their pricing page that you can look through and upgrade your Fly machine to. So if you needed more CPUs, there's a whole different class of CPUs. You can get 8 cores. If you switch over to using the shared CPU 8X, if you need more RAM, there's these performance classes that you can use. You can get up to 128 gigs of RAM, which is pretty large. So all of this falls under what's known as vertical scaling. If you think about it intuitively, vertical, think of bigger computers. You know, the computers literally have to grow in size. So if your app needs more resources, vertical scaling is one of the options that you have, one of the tools you have in your tool belt. Alternatively, horizontal scaling is where you can think of it as kind of a crowd, where if you need more resources, but you don't necessarily need them to all be one single large machine, you could spin up multiple smaller machines. And that's actually what we're doing right now. When you create a Fly app, it's creating 2 servers for your code to run on, which is good because if one of them crashes, the other one will still be around to serve traffic. So there's 2 kind of scaling modes that you have here. You can do much bigger computers, known as horizontal scaling, or a whole lot of computers, lots of individual computers, which is horizontal scaling. So I want to quickly show a practice called load testing, which is where you simulate a ton of traffic in order to test what happens to your app when it's getting hit by a bunch of users. This is especially important if your app is something that might receive a lot of traffic, say because of your website goes viral, or because you advertise your website in the Super Bowl and all of a sudden you've got millions of people trying to load your website all at once. So load testing is a practice where we simulate sending a whole bunch of traffic at your computer or at your website and figuring out what happens. Does it fall over? Does it crash? What happens? There's a tool that I have linked here on the slides called Vegeta that you can install to simulate a whole bunch of traffic. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, if your website, and I have worked at companies where we've advertised in the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you see the graphs and it just jumps by 100x. So this is a real thing. But I think it's interesting with Fly because we can actually see what happens when we scale our app. We can actually see a direct increase in the number of requests that our app is able to take. So if you want to try this yourself, you're welcome to, but I already have this installed on my machine, and I'm just going to show real quick what this load testing looks like. So I'm going to close some of these other windows and make this window a little bit bigger. This is the command to actually run the load test. It's going to spam 200 different connections as fast as it possibly can. There is no limit on how fast it's going to run. And I'm going to update this to be about a duration of 15 seconds instead of 5 seconds. And what I'm asking it to do is to load over and over and over again my website. So what is the URL for it? And we're going to see what happens when we put this kind of strain on the website. So here's the link to my website. And let's make it load the posts page. So we'll have it try to hit this post endpoint over and over again for as fast as it can, simulating a whole bunch of different connections. So I'll run this and we'll wait about 15 seconds to see what happens. If I open up my Macs, my MacBook's activity monitor, I would see that all of a sudden my machine is just working really hard. Okay, so here's the output from Vegeta. During those 15 seconds, it was able to make 26,000 successful requests to that website. And surprisingly, 100% of those requests returned HTTP status 200. The mean time for a response was about 113 milliseconds. So overall, it seems like the app was able to respond to a lot of requests fairly quickly. Okay, now let's see what happens if we scaled up the number of servers. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to actually scale the total number of machines that my app is using by 3. And I'll run Fly status. So we're still waiting for these 3 machines to come up. They're still being created. I need to give them a minute because if I just run the load test again, it won't be a very accurate test. And I'm going to take this report and that will be this will be our before. All right, let's see if those machines have started. Here we go. All 5 machines are up and running. So we have 3 additional computers that are going to be available to process requests. So let's rerun that load test. Let's spam the back end with a ton of traffic for 15 seconds and see what the new measurements look like. Put in chat, just so we have a baseline here, 26,000 was the total number. Put in chat what your guess is that the new 5 machines, what you think the total number of requests they're going to be able to serve is. Again, the previous number was 26,000. What do you think we're going to be able to achieve this time? Doug, that's a very scientific answer. Taylor thinking 90,000, okay. Taylor thinking 100,000. All right, let's see. What did we get? 70,000. So we were able to go from about a throughput of about 26,000 to, by increasing our total number of machines up from 2 to 5, we were able to see about what is that, 40,000 request increase in the total number of responses. So I mean, that's a sizable number, right? Just by paying a little bit more for a few more machines, we're able to serve an extra 40,000 connections. Cool. So that's scaling. Will you need this for your capstone? I don't know, maybe. If you really need to deal with a lot of traffic, possibly.
And Nathan, what is rate and throughput versus total?
So here on, so rate, I think, is being measured in second. I might be wrong. So that times 15. Oops. Should equal the total. Yeah, so rate is per second, how many requests it's able to respond to. So that would be like the RPS value. And throughput, I think, I'm actually not sure what the difference between rate and throughput is.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right, last couple of things to mention about Fly. Again, if you're not sending it any traffic, it will scale down, which is cool. So as long as you're not using it, you're not paying for it. So if your site's not getting any traffic, you won't hit any problems, or you won't get any charges. And if you set your Postgres, which we were doing, we were allowing it to scale down to 0. If you set that to development, it's also free. So as long as it's not in use, you're not gonna get charged for it. And there's a link to the slides. The only caveat for not getting charged for Postgres is you need to make sure that your app will scale down all the way to 0. When I mentioned earlier that we could update the fly.toml to always leave a machine running, if you do this, Postgres will never go to sleep because you'll always have a machine that's connected to Postgres. But if you have 0 machines running, if you let your app scale down to 0, you'll also let Postgres scale down to 0. So it's free, but only if you configure your app to completely shut down and turn off all machines. And then something really cool that I like about Fly, I don't really like very much about Fly, but one kind of cool thing about Fly is that they say if you accidentally do something stupid, like spin up a whole bunch of machines accidentally, they'll refund you, which I think is kind of cool. And if you are under an attack, like let's say someone tries to generate a bunch of malicious traffic against your website, it sounds like they'll also refund you that. that was a lot, and I know there was some pretty tricky stuff in there. Thank you for bearing with me through that. I will personally make sure that every single one of you has a capstone deployed on Fly. So if you weren't able to follow along with everything tonight, please do not stress. Please don't rewatch the videos. I'll be more than happy to help you tomorrow or next week. I just want everybody to kind of get a little bit of practice deploying with Fly, experimenting with the commands, making sure that that folks are just kind of familiar with the basics of Fly, and we'll get this going for your capstone shortly. Tomorrow we have it much easier. Netlify is what we're going to use to deploy the front end, and the front end is dead simple. All we do is npm run build and then netlify deploy. That is it. There's no Postgres database. There's no crashing because of ports or modules or any of that sort of stuff. Netlify is dead easy, in my opinion. We will also spend some time hooking up the domains so that you are comfortable hooking up whatever your capstone domain is to the Netlify front end. So when it's all deployed, it's talking to each other. And then there's just a couple other little things. For example, we are always hitting Netlify deploy, Fly deploy. We're always having to go into the terminal and running a command in order to deploy our code. Well, just like the GitHub pages, I also have GitHub actions to automate running those deploys for you. So when you are developing on your capstone and wanting to deploy, we can make it as easy as git commit push, and you don't have to touch Netlify and you don't have to touch Fly at all. It will just automatically be done for you in the background. And we can talk about that tomorrow as time permits. Also, if you're interested in having an email for your capstone, like admin at whatever, we can set that up. We might have set that up last time. I'm not sure if we did that in week 7. But if we haven't done that already, we can do that this time. Other than that, tomorrow is front ends, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Have a great night, and see you then. Palash.
Right.
And Corwin, Palash and Corwin, if y'all want to hang back and we'll fix some stuff. Palash, how about you go first? Because I think yours is going to be slightly easier.
Let me share my screen. Oh, who are
Yes,
you going?
please.